Marilyn, so the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, right? He said start talking, and you're saying the order book completely hurt something else entirely, didn't it?
Absolutely, Marcus. He said start talking, and the market, it heard already drafted, and it put 45 cents on it. That's not a small difference, right?
No, it's really not. And it feels like there's so much happening right now. Like yesterday, a federal judge, denied Minnesota's emergency motion against this huge Medicaid deferral, billion-dollar thing. And the same day, just 3 blocks away, the D.C. Circuit's hearing arguments on whether the president can even just execute order law firms out of federal business. It's wild.
It is wild, and it's the perfect setup, actually. You have these 2 courtrooms, same week, same constitution, right? And one ruling lets this historically unprecedented executive action just proceed, no problem. The other panel, meanwhile, is openly asking if there are any limits at all to executive power. It's a huge moment.
And they're both going to hold within their own doctrine, I guess. Which, doctrine wins, just decides everything else, doesn't it?
Exactly, and that's the core of it. Every think tank in DC, they read Bessent's press conference and they just saw stillness, right? But every prediction market, it read the exact same press conference and it saw scaffolding. The gap isn't about sentiment or, differing opinions. It's that one of them is reading agency deadlines that came due weeks ago and the other isn't. That's the key.
Okay, so let's anchor the facts then. Yesterday morning, Scott Bessent, he's in Beijing, right, at the Trump-Xi summit, tells CNBC that the U.S. and China are going to start talking about an AI safety protocol. The Council on Foreign Relations, they called it, narrowly scoped. Bloomberg said it was a missed opportunity. The general consensus, the implied probability that a federal executive order on AI safety gets signed before July 31st this year, 30 cents.
And the contract that was priced to that exact same moment, Marcus, was at 45. So you have a binary contract, a 15-point gap, all from the same press conference. It's pretty telling.
15 points, wow. So the framing, what the coverage is using, what the think tanks are using, is that diplomatic stillness just equals regulatory stillness, right? So talks are slow, action is slow.
That assumption, Marcus, that's the load-bearing piece, and I really, really want to push on it directly. Because the order book isn't betting on what Bessent said. The order book is actually reading what the agencies have already done,
Walk it through for us. What exactly are we talking about?
Okay, so December 11th, 2025, the administration signs an executive order, right? Directing the FTC to issue a policy statement by March 11th, 2026. This would classify state-mandated AI bias mitigation as a per se deceptive trade practice. Same date, same EO, Commerce Department is directed to publish an evaluation identifying burdensome state AI laws subject to litigation referral. March 11th has come, March 11th has gone. As of yesterday, neither document has been publicly released. 65 days overdue, Marcus.
And the litigation task force is operational, right?
Oh, totally. Operational since January 10th. They're picking targets right now. So the question isn't whether the architecture exists. It's partly built. And these deadlines, they tell you what's coming next. The order book, it sees those deadlines. The diplomatic framing just can't incorporate them because it requires the appearance of beginning. And what's actually happening is, it's already in the middle,
So it's like a building permit, right? The diplomatic story is like the public hearing where everyone debates the project. But the structural engineering review, that cleared months ago. So by the time the public hearing's over, it's not whether to build, it's what color to paint the front door. And that's exactly the shape of it. And there's a piece reported on May 11th by the Washington Post that I really want to put on the table. The administration is reportedly split over a proposal to give U.S. intelligence agencies a structural role in evaluating frontier AI models. Now, that's not a state law preemption fight. That's not a deceptive trade practice classification. That's the intelligence community writing model evaluation standards. That's a whole different ballgame.
And how would that even be implemented? Like an EO?
National Security Framed Executive Order. Doesn't wait for Congress, doesn't wait for the courts. It doesn't even wait for the talks Bessent just announced. That's the pathway the order book is pricing. So that 15-point gap, it's the size of those overdue deadlines plus this visible structural pathway, minus what diplomacy can actually incorporate. And those 2 courtrooms we opened with? That's the reason it matters. Because the question isn't just whether an EO gets signed. It's whether judicial review constrains what gets signed once it actually is.
Right. So, like, how much power does it actually have? That makes sense. So this is where, like, the second order effect really lives, right? The fuel price spike. The April BLS data just dropped yesterday, and U.S. import prices are up 1.9% in a single month. That's the largest one-month advance in years. And imported fuel and lubricants are up like 16.3%, all tied to, the Strait of Hormuz disruption and the U.S.-backed war with Iran.
Yeah, and if you look at the 12-month import price advance, it's 4.2%, largest since October 2022. It's a big deal. Now, here's the thing nobody's saying out loud, Marcus. The Iran war is doing two pieces of work simultaneously, and they're connected by the exact same upstream event. Piece one, right? Hormuz disruption drives fuel imports, drives consumer prices, hits your wallet in 60 to 90 days. We're all feeling that. Piece two, the exact same geopolitical instability is the political license for a national security framed AI executive order. That threat environment, it justifies the intelligence community review proposal we just talked about, which means the war is paying for the architecture politically while it's paying for inflation economically. Same source, different surfaces, both moving together. Do you know what I mean?
That routes the pricing too then. So Fed June 26, the contract for a Fed rate cut in June, that's at 22 cents. That's 3 points below the narrative implied 25. So capital's looking at a 16% fuel spike and just concluding the Fed can't cut. So the rate path contract and the regulatory architecture contract are like reading the same upstream geopolitical signal.
Exactly, same data stream. The same Hormuz disruption is the input to monetary policy expectations and to AI governance expectations at the same time. It's really something. Now, project this out, Marcus, 5 to 10 years. If this intelligence community pathway becomes load-bearing, and right now it's the dominant available pathway, then frontier model investment just gets gated by IC clearance. The labs that build with IC-compatible architectures, they get capital. The labs that don't, they just don't. We end up with an IC-shaped AI industry, not because anyone designed it, but because the upstream pressure just made it the path of least resistance for every actor in the chain. Wow, that's a completely different industry structure than most analysts are even projecting right now, or most labs are even budgeting for. It absolutely is. And here's the question I want to sit with for a second, because this is the piece that's hardest to see. The ICAI review standards, the ones the Washington Post reported on 3 days ago, those standards are being drafted right now, today, as we record. Not by Congress, not by the courts, not by the labs themselves, by people whose names you don't know in offices that don't issue press releases. And the order book, it sees them moving. It's incredible.
So that's the part the contract is actually pricing, huh?
That's exactly the part the contract is actually pricing. The 45 cents isn't a guess about Bessent's diplomatic timeline. It's an estimate of how close those unnamed drafters are to finishing. And I want to push back on something, Marcus, specifically on the forward lock we opened with, the AIEO 2026 contract.
Yeah, go for it.
You said watch AIEO 2026 in the 7 days after May 21st, right? Break above 55, path A, instrument already drafted. Drop below 30, path B, talks for real. That's a clean operational signal. I don't dispute the signal. What I dispute is what the signal actually tells you, because the contract resolves on whether an EO gets signed. It does not resolve on whether the architecture, once signed, survives judicial review. Those are different questions,
Steelman the contract for a second, though.
Okay, steel manning the contract. The contract is load-bearing because if AIEEO 2026 settles yes, the next layer contracts reprice. FTC bias mitigation enforcement, IC model review programs, those repricings from 30 into the high 50s, they tell you what capital expects to survive judicial challenge. So the contract does carry information about durability, indirectly, through the secondary repricing. So yeah, fair steelman.
Fair steelman. Now press it.
Capital prices what happens. It does not price what's right, Marcus. The DC Circuit could rule next month that the law from executive orders are unconstitutional. First Amendment doctrine, retaliation against protected speech, due process, wall in place, intact. And the AI architecture continues anyway, because the AI architecture isn't built on the same doctrinal theory.
It's built on broad statutory interpretation, national security, fraud control, trade-related authorities. The doctrines just don't compete for the same territory. They bifurcate. Do you know what I mean?
They totally bifurcate.
And once you see the bifurcation, the question from the cold open answers itself. Both rulings hold within their doctrine. The First Amendment is still a wall in the territory it covers. Broad statutory interpretation is a dial in the territory it covers. The Constitution doesn't fail. It just stops being one thing. It's a massive shift in how we think about it.
That really changes the actionable frame, doesn't it?
It refines it, Marcus. The contract still resolves. You still watch the 7-day window after May 21st, but you watch it knowing what it tells you and what it doesn't. It tells you about architecture. It does not tell you about legitimacy. Those are just different things, and the listener really needs both.
Agreed. So the forward lock holds, but the lock is like operational, not normative. Watch the contract to know what's happening, but don't confuse what's happening with what should be allowed. And that haunting piece you mentioned, I think it's important for our listeners as we wrap up.
Yeah, the one I want sitting on the table when we go to synthesis is that you are now living in a country where some constitutional protections are walls and others are dials. The order book knows which is which. The diplomatic press conference does not, and neither until about 30 seconds ago did most of the people listening. It's just a different world now. So the operational frame refined. In the next 30 days, 3 signals. First, AIEO 2026, that 7-day window following May 21st. Above 0.55 confirms the architecture was built ahead of the diplomatic announcement. Below 0.30 confirms the diplomatic frame was true. Second, the next BLS import price release around June 1st. If the Hormuz overflow persists into May data, the political license for national security framing strengthens. Third, the D.C. Circuit ruling on the law firm executive orders. That tells you what the boundary doctrine still does. 3 signals, 3 dates, 1 coherent picture by July.
And the recursive loop you mentioned about AI front-running its own regulation, that's like a future concern, right?
No, Marcus, that's the thing. The recursion isn't a future concern. It's the current pricing mechanism. Every trader pricing AIEO 2026 right now is already creating the feedback loop. The order book is the training data. By the time an AI starts trading these contracts directly, it'll be reading patterns the humans already wrote into them. We're not waiting for the recursion, we're inside it. The only question is whether you can see the building going up while everyone else is still listening to the press conference about whether to break ground.
Watch the contract. But remember, capital prices what happens. It does not price what's right. That part still belongs to you. For sources and the underlying intelligence brief, you can go to rebrand.ly/YFH. Marilyn, thank you so much.
And to all our viewers, thank you for joining us today. If you found this discussion insightful, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with your network, and subscribe to help us continue to grow.
It's always a pleasure, Marcus. The key takeaway, I believe, is truly understanding that the market isn't just reacting to diplomatic headlines. It's revealing the underlying, often unseen, architectures of power and policy that are already in motion.
A powerful distinction, Marilyn. It profoundly underscores the importance of looking beyond the public narrative, especially when the stakes are as high as they are with AI governance, national security, and global economics.
Precisely. The future isn't just being discussed, it's being built piece by piece right now, with or without explicit public announcement. And the order book, for those who know how to read it, offers a tangible glimpse into that construction.
Absolutely. A profound insight to carry forward. We'll be back next week to delve deeper into these crucial intersections. Until then, stay informed and keep watching the contracts.